So I'm Chad, my wife Donnell. We have 4 kids. Parker's 11, Haley is 9, Kyle's 7, and Drew's 4. So we've been blessed with 4 great kids.
Basically, adoption was never something I ever thought about. It's not something that I've always wanted to do or nothing. But 2 years ago, a friend, no, not a friend actually, a secret sister. So she gave me a book called Choosing to See by Mary Beth Chapman. And it is a story, it's basically Mary Beth Chapman wrote about the adoption of their 3 daughters and then subsequently the death of one of her daughters by an accident. And I just bawled my eyes out the whole time. And of course, you cry over the death of her daughter, but the beginning where she's just talking about the adoption really just pulled at my heart in the way that she just put a face to her children and not just the 143 million orphans out there, but it was, and so I think it just really pulled at me. And I just remember just crying thinking, I can be a mommy. I'm not a perfect mommy, but I can be a better mommy than no mommy. That was the whole thing that kept going through my mind. And of course I thought at first it was just an emotional, I'm acting on emotion, I'm telling Chad, and he's kind of like, okay, whatever. And it's just an emotional side of things. But then it didn't go away. And it just kept like for months and months, you see things or people say things that just kind of brings it back to your attention again. And it just wouldn't go away. And just upon praying about it, like, is this really where I'm supposed to be going? Or is this just, again, an emotional, I feel sorry for the orphans and I need to help in some way, but maybe not adopt. And but it wouldn't go away. And just praying about it, I just really felt, it would have been almost a little over a year ago, August, felt like I was really just saying, this is what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to take another one into your family, to add another child to your family through adoption. And when I told Chad, he was like, I'm not so sure about that. We have 4 kids, we're going this way, we don't want to go that way.
I probably had the typical guy's response that she's just being emotional about a book that she read. And we had kind of taken a step in faith of even having our 4th child. Like, this is, in today's world, that's a big family and kind of crazy when some people look at us. But, and we had kind of made a decision that we were having, our 4th, and then that was it. And so when she came to me talking about adoption, I thought, I don't know, we've already kind of went down this road. And so I wasn't really on board at first.
Yeah. So I just really, feeling that, I just kind of felt like, if I bring it up too much, it's like nagging him. So I just kind of took a step back and just prayed that God would change his heart himself, and just encouraged his time in the Word and just prayed over him. And maybe once a month I'd bring it up to see where he's at, and it was still usually just not much comment. So probably about 6 months later, in this February, almost a year ago, he just came to me out of the blue one day and said, you know what, I think this is what God's asking us to do. And so it was just really amazing how he went from absolutely no interest to God's conviction that this is what he wanted of us. And so we were like, okay, where do we start? Where do we dive in, And so that's kind of how we came to the decision that that's the path we were going to take. And we just started the process of the first application. I think the main thing is we have put Jesus, we have put our Christianity at the top of our tier. So that is what drives all that we do. Chad and I's marriage is second. That's like the next thing that's most important on us. And then our kids, of course. And so we so enjoy our children. I know there's struggles. Yes, it's not easy raising kids, but none of it overrides the joy that we have with them. I just really, really enjoy them. And I think that that's just, I don't know, God's just placed in our heart that people are way more important than the things of this world and the status that we get and the affirmation and all the other things that this world wants to tell us. And I think that's kind of where taking another child in has become a no-brainer. I'm sure at some point it was like, we already have 4 that keep us busy, but it became a no-brainer. Like, how could I not help at least one Like I can do something, and there's lots of things I could do to support orphans, and not everybody's called to take another child in through adoption, but this is the path that God has chosen for us, and there's many other ways to take care of orphans through mission trips and financing and helping families that are adopting, and so many things that you could do, but this is the path that we feel we have been chosen to do humbly, because like I said, I never would have thought this was what he had for us. I never crossed our minds. And you can know that there's 143 million orphans in the world, and you can know it's there, and maybe give a little money here and there, or be, oh, that's so sad, but then turn away and just do the rest of your life the way that you've planned or you wanted, or the way you are doing it. And I just feel like once you put a face to that, I just feel like you can't ignore it. It doesn't go away. You can't close your eyes anymore, because those children are real people that haven't chosen that path. They haven't been given the option. They've been placed in a situation that they had no choice in being, without any mom, with no dad, with no family, without love, without somebody to hold them, without somebody to feed them regularly, without somebody to care for them when they get their boo-boos and their nightmares and all these things. And they are a real person that needs somebody to just love them and hold them and teach them, and everything that comes into parenting. Everybody deserves that and needs that. And I guess I just feel like I can't look the other way anymore. Like I can't ignore that. I can't just pretend it's not there. It's just amazing. And I think, I've heard too that, if 7% of Christians adopted just one child, just 7% adopted one child, there would be no more orphans at all. Looks like a big number, it looks like a big job, but he's only called a small portion to actually do that work, so that wouldn't be an issue anymore, and it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that many people to take on that huge problem, and it just really blows my mind that I could not do that at this point.
A lot of what she's saying, I think, is what started to lead me to open up about adoption. I think I just kind of took that first look at it as, typical provider kind of mentality that, how are we going to provide for another child? And, how do we, we're not going to fit in our van as it is today, just many of those little things. And as you start to think about, the issues that, these kids have today in an orphanage, and here I am worried about fitting into our van and, make it harder to go on vacations and, many of those things. It just, you start to kind of realize I'm just being selfish, in some of those thoughts. And it started really kind of warming my heart up to adopting, and just continued prayer through the whole thing, just kind of asking God to just kind of, guide us in this. Is this the right step for us? And so that's a lot of what really opened up my heart for it.
It became less about us and more about somebody else.
The first time we brought it up, we were eating dinner, and we brought it up, just told them, and they knew that we had been talking about possibly adopting, I think, and when we finally said, yes, we are going to do this, they all were super excited about it. Haley jumped up, and she was just, I think immediately, she's going to sleep in my room. And
jumping out of her chair, excited.
And the boys were all excited too. So they've been really happy and supportive about the whole thing all along.
Yeah.
So
it's fun to hear them say once in a while, like, well, when our new sister comes, and this is where she's going to sit at the dinner table, or when she comes, then we'll have 5 kids, or, it's just the little things that they think about in their life, about where is she going to sit in the van, who's she going to sit by in the van, or, we're talking about switching up rooms a little bit, figuring out where everyone's, going to be bunking up with and so forth. And so it's, constantly, when our new sister comes, this is where she'll be. So they're very excited about it. They love having the 4 of them already, having so many siblings, and obviously I think that they just think that is a joy to have more. I mean, I'm sure it'll rock our youngest world, rock his world, just not being the baby anymore, and
it'll
so forth. But he needs a little, he needs a little bit of that. But Yeah, they're super excited. Oh boy.
So when we started to look at all the options, there's various countries that you can go through, and each country kind of has some of their own guidelines that they do. And some of the big ones are how long of a trip do you have to take. Some of them in Africa, you have to be there for, I think, a month to 3 months, and some are multiple trips. And we just knew, having 4 kids already, that would be a hard thing for us to do, is to leave the kids at home and go for that long. And we both want to go when we go receive our child. And so a lot of discussion about those things, as well as, I think we read a lot of stories about some of the different countries and some of the issues that they've had in the just maybe government handling some of the adoptions. And there's some cases where people have a child already matched with them, and it may be a year, 2 years, 3 years before they finally go get that child. And it seems like it comes down to a bureaucracy, paperwork kind of thing. So in looking at all that, and again, just kind of knowing, we've already got 4 kids, so it's difficult to manage all that. China seemed like probably the best situation, simply because they've adopted a lot. They have a very formal process, I guess, that they do on a regular basis. So we felt a little more confident going into that it wasn't going to be strung out for a long time.
Yeah. So and I had already kind of looked into adoption agencies and just talked to a few close friends that knew of some agencies I looked into. And so Lifeline Children's Services, the agency that we chose to go with, I just really felt confident with them. They're a Christian organization that just stands by that value, and they I called asking questions. They were super helpful, so it just felt right. So that's the path that we chose to take with them, and man, it's been a paperwork journey. To begin with, the Lifeline is located in Alabama, so there's tons. Everything's fine. You can do everything through email and amazing technology. But the home study part, you have to have a local agency to do that part, because they have to come into your home and you have to meet with them on quite a few occasions. So that was that first step. That home study process was a huge process. Just the mountains of paperwork and information and training, lots and lots of online training and classes and stuff. And so we finally took a long time to get that part done, and then a long time to get that part written up. It's 13 or 17 pages of all about us, basically, and submitted that to Illinois, and they have approved us. So we got that step taken care of. Illinois has approved us, and right now our paperwork is at U.S. Immigration, approving us to bring a child into the country, and that's where we're waiting right now. It's a lot of paperwork and then wait, a lot of busyness and then wait. So we're waiting on that right now while we're working on some other paperwork that's going to eventually, once we get that approval, be sent to China so that they can approve us. So there's a lot of steps along the way. Lifeline's been awesome at walking us through it. So there's it's not as scary as I thought it was going to be, just because they take you each step of the way.